Yeah, I think we can start recording. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm glad you can make it to this live stream. Kind of spontaneous, but as you know, that's what I do. I just really just share my own research and my own practice on this channel. So sometimes things happen kind of unplanned. All right. But nonetheless, what you're going to get today is very profound and has some very, very interesting implications. And hopefully, you're going to be able to make use of that. Now, with everything that I'm saying here, obviously, I'm going to have to generalize it a little bit because this is not just one-on-one. This is for however many people are on here. And on top of that, other people are going to watch it. So I'm going to have to kind of like generalize that. Now, the good thing about astrology is that really you can apply that to an individual chart, an individual person who has their own individual energetic challenges and processes going on, right? Everything is cyclical. Time is really cyclical. And we have many, many, many intertwined energetic cycles going on ever since birth and throughout our lives. Our own cycles take place, but at the same time, the whole universe and the cosmos and all that stuff, the whole planet, and everybody around us is going through their own individual cycles. It's a very, very complex and fractal energetic machine. And what I'm going to talk about today are, of course, the collective dynamics that we're going to see. Try to apply that to your own life, how you can, and I'm going to give you some tips, of course, but it will take a little bit of taking that information in and just trying to find a way to apply that in your own life. And I'm sure you're smart enough to do that. So let's begin. So, as I mentioned many, many times when I'm talking about astrology and the cycles, I keep talking about a shifting of the elements. So we're coming out of a 200-year period of the air epoch, Earth epoch, where everything was very, very concrete, but also static in a way. Okay, so all the systems that we see, think about the different elements and what they represent. When we're talking about the Earth element, we're talking about something that is solid, Earth. It's rigid. It's not moving that fast. It's not flexible. It's very linear, so to speak, right? Very, very slow moving, and everything is very stable. Okay, think of a rock, a mountain, Earth itself. What we're moving into and already have moved into. Sorry, in 2020 we shifted into an air epoch, and there's always 5 years of a transition phase, and now we're finishing the transition phase, and now we're moving into the acceleration phase of this new epoch. Okay, so when you think about air, which is what the new epoch or the element of the new epoch is, that's much different than Earth. It's more abstract. Air is very fast changing. Think of thoughts. Think of even energy to an extent. It's very abstract. It's very flexible and very chaotic also in a way. Okay, so all the new technologies, for example, that you're seeing right now, artificial intelligence, blockchain, which are probably the most important technologies that we have right now, and they're going to be the most important ones for the future economic system that's building up. They're not physical. Think about it. Those are really just abstractions. Okay, and in the same way, the financial system is also, of course, also moving into that same direction, and the all most economic factors are really becoming that pure abstractions. Okay, much more than during the financialization that we've seen ever since the 1970s, but even more so, it's purely becoming abstract factors that are ruling everything. This is really a reflection of the air element. In a similar way, mental diseases, for example, are becoming more and more pronounced and more widespread. This is also part of this air epoch, where the mental is becoming more important than the physical. Please understand that this has an implication on everything. The air element is very androgynous, where the earth element is traditionally interpreted as masculine and male. The air element is much more, like I said, androgynous. It's not a coincidence that much more people are trying to explore or expand the spectrum of genders and so on and so forth. A lot of people, non-binary and all that stuff. This is all a reflection of the collective consciousness shifting in a certain way. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's going to be trans in 10 years from now, but what I'm saying is that we're going to see a much bigger plurality, different options to identify oneself, right? Because, like I said, the mental is becoming more important than the physical. So everything's becoming more abstract, and your digital identity, for example, your what's taking place in cyberspace is going to be way more important than what's taking place in the physical. I mean, a midterm perspective is really, and when I say midterm, I'm talking about what society is going to look like in around 2050 is going to be the overwhelming majority of all people are just going to be purely consuming in kind of like a virtual reality environment, and they're going to be, they're going to be involved in some form of a digital activity, and that's where they're going to get their entertainment from. At the same time, we're going to have kind of like they're going to be given universal basic income, so to speak, and they're going to be able to survive, and the costs for entertainment are going to go towards zero, which means they can entertain themselves to death, essentially. And there's going to be a very, very small minority of people who are actually creating those things, who are able to use those technologies and the tools that are accessible through these new technologies, and they're going to basically run the show. But that is something that we're going to cover a little bit later. What we're going to talk about now is this is the situation where we find ourselves in. Please understand that, we're never going to go back to what used to be. Let's say before 2020, the world seemed to be more sane, didn't it? Right? It was more something that we were used to. Everything was kind of stable, right? We knew where the powers were, like worldwide, which countries would run the world and stuff like that. All of this is shifting, and it's never going to go back. What we're going to see is an acceleration. Everything's going to become more chaotic. So crises are the new normal, okay? Nobody's going to fix that because it's the collective unconscious that is creating all of those things. So what we can say about 2025 is essentially the theme is going to be a great flood. Now, certain countries, and when I say flood, I'm really talking about natural disasters that we're going to see connected to water, okay? Now, I know that Trump, or the election of Trump has created a lot of hope for people where, he's going to fix it, and, everything's going to come back into order. And throughout the world, people are hoping for a more stable environment. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. We're going to have a lot of natural disasters connected to water. So I'm talking about floods, and those floods are, floods also connected to earthquakes, of course, natural disasters. Let's keep it that way. We're going to have huge natural disasters that are going to disrupt the entire world. Not that this is not a Mad Max scenario. That's not what I'm talking about. But see, nothing that happens in one place is isolated. So you will have certain natural disasters in one area of the world, and that's going to create a flood of refugees, for example. So a lot of refugees moving throughout the globe into different countries, and this, of course, is going to disrupt a lot of things. Okay, so just as people thought things are going to come back to normal and are going to become more stabilized, we're going to see a massive disruption again. Now, all of this, of course, you have to see in the context of a new energetic environment. Think about it. If you have an atmosphere that's completely shifted, but people trying to stick to old systems, what you're going to see is that sooner or later, forcefully, the old system is going to be destroyed. So what does that mean? The governments, as they are organized right now, are not capable to deal with these new fast developments. They're not capable of dealing with the technological developments. Everything, all the institutions need to be changed. So what we're going to see is definitely discussions about how we can reorganize society. We can all see the shifts, all right? So everybody is afraid that automation with artificial intelligence is going to kill a lot of jobs, which it will, you know? But at the same time, we have a whole new generation of, let's say, Gen Z and people that are younger than that. And, you know, millennials, I mean, I'm a millennial, it's a little bit different with us, but anyone younger than that, they're really not willing nor really capable of building a life with this economic situation that we're going through. So these things are going to go together, if that makes sense. Okay, so the replacement of the workers is gonna hit, or is gonna come together with a lot of most people not willing to work in the system anymore. Okay, so we're gonna have to find solutions for that, which is gonna be hard. But all of this is not gonna come easy. It's gonna come forced. All right. So key planetary positions are Pluto in Aquarius, which is continued. Okay, Pluto is a planet of power in the collective unconscious, and when it hits Aquarius, when it is in Aquarius, that emphasizes the importance of technology. Aquarius is a sign that deals with technology, individuality, innovation, social reform, and collective progress. And this will, once again, continue the deep shifts in society. Identity politics is not gone. We're also not going to go back to the 1950s. I know a lot of people wish it would be that simple. It's never going to be that simple again, like it used to be in the past, you know, where there was one model of how to live your life correctly and everybody would follow that. That's gone. It used to be normal in the last couple 100 years. We're in a new era. Okay, so what does that mean? The model of how families are structured, for example. Okay, so the dad goes to work, the mom stays at home, children are being raised, and all that stuff. That's it's still going to exist, but it's going to be the majority. It's going to be one lifestyle amongst many, many others. Okay, and we're going to continue seeing people exploring different forms of identity. It's just the time for it. Whatever you think about that is irrelevant. It's just what's going to happen. Power will become decentralized. Okay, power is going to become more decentralized, or at least there's going to be an attempt for that. We stand between different opportunities here, or different paths that this could take. One path could be that, which is the most unlikely in my opinion, where power is really being decentralized. Now, what does that mean? Decentralizing power means that for example, blockchain is going to be used to create a new electoral system in which nobody has control over how things go. Okay, decentralized means there's no central authority that can control things. It's a decentralized network where every node of the network has the same amount of power, and collectively decisions are being made. That's the idea behind cryptocurrencies, for example. The ledger of Bitcoin is a good example for that. And that could be transferred into politics. We already have the technology to make sure that no election could ever be messed with, you know. But I don't think that is going to be the case. The second option that we have is that those technologies, let's say blockchain technologies, for example, are going to be hijacked by the powers that be in order to maintain their grip and their control on the planet. And this is the most likely scenario. So what you're going to see is, as you already saw that, for example, BlackRock getting involved with Bitcoin, okay, and they completely changed their opinion on cryptocurrencies. Now, who's BlackRock? BlackRock is the biggest hedge fund. They have a budget that is bigger than the GDP of most countries. You know, a GDP is essentially it's called the yearly production in dollar terms. Okay, um, and they're huge. They're huge. All right, and they have entire governments under their control. They can move large amounts of capital, and they control governments. Okay, it's also not Trump that runs the show. Of course, Trump is basically a mascot for a certain faction of those people that control the flows of capital. Okay, and what they are interested in is more control, obviously, because that's what control, that power wants more power. That's what they do. And what they're going to try to introduce is, and I think they will be successful, is CBDCs, okay, which are central bank issued cryptocurrencies, essentially. Okay. Now, the entire idea behind cryptocurrency was that no central authority can control the currency. Right? And what is the problem if a central authority can control the printing of currency? Because the problem is that if you have a certain group of people or certain institutions that can control the money supply, that means that they can print as much as they want. They can create it out of thin air. And if they can create an infinite amount of money, they can buy up all the assets because they can outbid everybody. And this also benefits, of course, the people with assets and the rich, because they have collateral that they can use to borrow the money that has been printed. Okay, so it's basically benefiting the people at the top and taking everything from the people that are lower on the pyramid scale, right? And that's just going to continue. So what I'm trying to say is what they will do is they're going to use this concept of cryptocurrencies, which was originally designed to take this power away from those central authorities. They're going to use that and pervert it. How? What they're going to do is they're going to issue CBDCs, which is a cryptocurrency that is controlled by the governments, essentially. Okay. Now, they're already preparing for the destruction of the economy. They're going to wreck it. They're going to make living conditions extremely hard for most people, so that people will welcome CBDCs. Why? CBDCs are going to be essentially a government handout. It's going to be sort of like a monthly paycheck, a certain amount of credits directly issued from the central bank. You get it, right? Everyone else gets it, and it's going to be enough to survive. But at the same time, that gives them an enormous amount of control. They can take everything away from you if they want. And also the money is most likely, the CBDC is most likely going to have an expiration date. So you can't save it. You can start investing with it. And it's going to be kind of like a techno-communism. It's going to be centrally planned. One of the characteristics of communism is that everything is centrally planned. There's one authority that plans everything, usually the state. So that's what they're going to do. A techno-communism, that's what's going to be introduced. The only thing that can save you from this bullshit is if you have assets yourself, because then you're not dependent on them. And also, there's also always going to be countries that are not involved with this bullshit, right? Now, I know that Trump has said that he's against CBDCs, right? But if you really read that, and I have done that, if you really read the anti-CBDC law that they wanted to pass, or it essentially says that if CBDCs are being issued, they should comply with American values, which basically doesn't mean anything. Like, it's bullshit. So it's most likely that CBDCs are gonna be introduced step by step by step, and they're moving into that direction. Okay, it's not going to take long. Not going to take long. You don't have much time. And maybe you don't see the implications that that has, but if you are being given a certain amount of money that has an expiration date and is sent to you directly, that means they have a ledger of your transactions, meaning they can control everything that you spend, and they can see everything that you spend as well. Okay, that is it's kind of messed up. Now, in a way, they can already do that, but they can already see that, but they can't just turn your income off if they want. You know, I mean, eventually, also they're gonna, of course, connect your ID and your genetic data to your social media presence and your social media accounts and everything else that you do online. And that means you can't post what you want anymore, which, I mean, you can do today, but it's going to be much more controlled. At least that's the plan. That's the direction that we're headed into. And that's the most likely scenario. Good. Now, another planet that's very important here is Jupiter in Taurus. Throughout 2025, Jupiter is going to be in Taurus, which is another Earth sign. And this can bring economic growth. Now, Earth reflects or is associated with certain sectors of the economy, such as landscaping, agriculture, commodities, real estate, in certain regions. Okay, in certain regions. So this year, 2025, they could definitely benefit. Agriculture, real estate. Yeah. Finance is also one of those, but that depends. Right. Saturn is going to be in Pisces. Yeah. Now, Pisces is the sign of spirituality, okay, of dreaminess, otherworldliness, right? So when Saturn is in Pisces in 2025, that would mean something like it forces people to grow spiritually. My estimation is the following thing, okay? So what you're going to see is that conditions around us are going to become so chaotic and so stressful, okay? And once again, this is the air epoch. So you're going to be mentally stressed. You're going to be bombarded with frequencies, so to speak, frequencies all around you that are going to make life and your existence extremely uncomfortable. It's almost as if everything around you is completely turned upside down constantly. Please understand that this is not necessarily that physical objects are going to be thrown around, but it's going to be, you can already feel it. It's been like that since 2020. The energies are just speeding up and everything's changing constantly and rearranging. And it's almost as if you don't know what's going to happen next week. You can't plan anymore, right? So this chaotic and fast changing external environment is really, really hard to deal with. Okay. So Saturn in Pisces means that you're being challenged through this extreme stress that you're going to go through to grow spiritually. Because the only thing, and this is the biggest lesson here, the only way to really deal with this new environment energetically is you have to find a point of focus in the spiritual, meaning you got to be able to maintain your sanity by having a focal point that is beyond, and that can only happen spiritually. If you try to find a focal point or refuge or peace in anything that is tangible, it will be taken away from you, will be destroyed, guaranteed, because things are changing too fast. And I'm sure you've experienced that in the last couple of years. You start to put meaning into something, or you start to rely on something or you start to depend on something, it's going to be taken away right away. And this is how things are going to change now in the future. Okay, we live in this new time in which you are not supposed to focus on anything or put any stock into anything except your own ability to create things and to destroy things. Okay, and this is something that I should go into later, but see, things are changing so fast that it's extremely hard to maintain them. And the worst thing you could do is really get attached to some sort of a career path or get attached to some sort of, I mean, it's maybe not the worst thing you can do, but getting attached to any kind of even ideologies, they're gonna dissipate. It's very airy. Okay, so what you need to do is the following thing. You need to develop the ability to observe and then to disassociate from what your mind is doing and then focus your attention on what it is that you need in the moment. And as you do that, you'll be able to create it, because since everything is so fluctuating and it's less in the physical and more in the spiritual, your ability to manifest things is also more pronounced. You're better at manifesting, or it's going to be easier to manifest. You see, remember, when we manifest something, we've got to bring it from the spiritual into the physical. But if everything or the most important dynamics are taking place not in the physical but in the spiritual, you can manifest faster and you can influence things faster. Okay, so one of the most important things that you need to develop is this position of an observer, and then create things and destroy things as you go. All right. Another very, very important thing that you have to be aware of, in my opinion, is that just because it's the physical, it doesn't mean that there aren't conscious and living things that exist in these other worlds. Okay, so what am I saying here? The spiritual universe is not a peaceful environment. It's war constantly. And when I say war, I'm talking about essentially survival of the fittest and certain entities feeding off others. Okay, that's just what it is. So it's still an energy exchange everywhere. There are many, many entities that want your energy. Now, those entities could be called egregores, spirits, whatever. But the point is, how do they feed off of you? If something catches your attention, energetically, what's taking place is your Manipura chakra is creating like an opening for that thing. And now it's occupied your mind. And as that has occupied your mind, it can now go a little bit further and send its tentacles into your sacral chakra. Now it has your emotions, and then it goes even deeper. And now it can feed off your sexual essence, your sexual energy, which is your life force. Okay, so what does that mean? Most people are constantly involved in this. Let's say, I don't know, let's say they go through Twitter or X or whatever. Let's say they're, or some social media or some shorts on the internet, right? They scroll. What's taking place there? These people are food. Please understand this. They're food. What's taking place is some egregores, some thought form, some energy field is plugging into them, or it's like sending out its tentacles, and it starts to feed off of them. And most people have zero conscious awareness, for real. You know, every day, morning to night, they're it's sort of like a trance, and they're NPCs essentially. That's what. Okay. Now this is not I'm not trying to be judgmental. No, it's just a fact. Okay. And what did I say earlier with where we're headed? Society in 2050 is going to look like this. We're going to have very, very, very powerful. And when I say 2050, it seems like it's miles away, but it's really not that long. And of course, 2050 is going to be the end state. But as we're moving towards 2050, this is going to become realer and realer and realer. So the end state 2050, our society is going to look like this. The overwhelming majority, 70 to 80% of people, are going to be plugged into a virtual reality that they're hardly ever going to leave. They're going to be fed and they're going to feed their energy, their life force to, you know, to this virtual space in which certain egregores feed off of them. That's basically where we're headed. Okay, it's like the Matrix, essentially. The Matrix, the movie. I'm sure most of you have seen that. But that's the future that we're headed towards. In the the only way to avoid that is essentially to develop this ability to disassociate yourself and create your own, thought forms, to focus on the things that you want to create, and to develop more of a control. And as you do that, you can become one of the creators, not as a project of creating your own matrix. That's not what I'm saying, but the overwhelming majority is going to be consumers, and there's going to be a small percentage who are going to be able to use those new technologies and essentially their mind to create this new world. Okay. Now, next, I want to cover a little bit of the geopolitical shifts and opportunities. Okay. We're moving into a deglobalization. Okay. So after the Second World War, we had a certain world order in which trade was relatively easy between the different countries. We're now moving into a world where we're going to see more nationalism, more regionalism. Okay, we're going to have multipolar alliances, and they're not going to be fond of each other. Okay. Now, I have a lot of notes here that are probably not too relevant, but let me go into Bitcoin, for example. Okay, I did a video in March where I was going into the price predictions about Bitcoin. I said that it's going to hit 120,000, maximum 140,000, but that's unlikely. It's already hit pretty much 100,000, and in March I think it was at 50,000. So it's, and my prediction is that it's going to go up to around 120,000. That's when I would set it. 120,000 right around January, based on many factors. If you want to know why, just watch the video that explains why. Okay, I think the title was Bitcoin Astrology. Now, like I said, you're going to see an embrace of Bitcoin by the government, by the American government and others, of course, because this is not a national thing. The CBDCs are not a national thing, not a national project, something that they want to introduce in most countries in the world. So you're gonna see an embrace and a praise of Bitcoin and cryptos, but this is they're basically wolves in sheep clothing, okay? Because they're praising the cryptos because they want to introduce the CBDCs, and the CBDCs, if they succeed with it, my friends, is gonna be the beginning of decades of fucking horror and terror. I'm telling you, life is gonna suck for most people, for sure. Not forever, but for the next 20 years or so, a little bit more than that. So, my tips for you before we go into the Q&A. I said it's a great flood. A great flood, literally. Okay, so we're going to have natural disasters. Mark my word. 2025 is going to be, earthquakes, tsunamis, all that shit, right? A flood of people, huge refugee flows, or like what's it called, refugee streams. You get what I'm saying? A lot of people trying to escape death, and that's going to disrupt a lot of stuff. Okay, but also energetically. So everything old, the Great Flood, everything old is going to be swept away. It's going to be taken away, and you have no choice. You really can't. You can try to resist, but I promise you, the more you resist, the more it's going to be taken away from you. So think about how you can adjust your life to this new energetic quality. Like I said, the old structures that you might rely on are no longer going to be there. You know, what are you? How are you preparing for this new time? The best thing you could do is invest in your personal and professional development, which basically just means new skills. The good thing is that most of this stuff or a lot of this stuff is free, because what you're going to get at a university or college is bullshit. That's nobody needs that. Okay, a university degree is not going to do anything. But what you can do is you can use the technology that's available to educate yourself on the new tools that are out there. Okay, you can get certifications on AI for free. You know, and if you can combine that with something else, you could create a business quite fast. You know, nobody's not going to use AI. Nobody's not going to use that. So what I'm trying to say is essentially there are many, many opportunities, but you need to prepare for that, and you need to self-educate. Essentially, that's the most important thing. Okay, prepare for that, develop the skills for that, and that can happen very fast. You can get a certification like that in a couple of weeks. What you're also going to see is that personal development and mental health and mental coaching, all these things are going to be much more important and much more in demand. So if you maybe have a coaching business or something like that, that's fantastic. Or if you want to start one, that will be absolutely fantastic, because people need that more and more and more, and they're also going to be willing to spend money on that. Okay, because eventually, I'm about the future, I'm pretty optimistic, but in this phase in which we're transitioning for the next couple years and decades, it's going to be super hard. Think about it. We're basically at the forefront of all of this. Okay, we're working on ourselves. We're meditating on it, or at least most of us. But most people are still completely stuck in this old time. Think about it. It's going to be so hard for them to transition. And think about what they're dealing with right now, because this stuff is driving them crazy. They don't know what's going on. So, this is why you see mental health issues skyrocketing, right? So, if you can help people with that transition, that's going to be very, very profitable. So you can position yourself there, and like become like a I don't know, like a coach of sorts. Okay, personal development coach. That's going to be very much in demand. You're going to see. Try it out. Yeah, like I said, tech skills, personal development, everything that has to do with the mind is the most profitable area that you can go into. And yeah, besides that, they're going to push, of course, certain agendas such as sustainability, blah 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 bullshit. I'm not going to go into that. It's definitely going to be talked about more so in Europe because they're super environmentalists, but yeah, I think the most important things have been said. Okay, so quick recap. We're in this new time. I've been talking about this air epoch shift for some time now, and we're officially out of the transition phase, and now we're accelerating. All of you could feel, everybody can feel it. Since 2020, since this new phase began, shit just seems out of control, because it is. We have to adapt. We have to find a new way of life, because it's never going to go back to the way it was. The old days, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, was super predictable compared to what's going on today. Everything can shift within a day, 2 days. So you have to find a way to live and to live your life that is able to deal with the sudden changes. And this is from a perspective of the old days. This is very scary and terrifying. But everybody here on this call is young enough to still adapt. And that adaptation just basically means you need to embrace the changes. You need to look for the new opportunities. And if you think about it, it's actually kind of cool because the past was maybe predictable and slow changing, but it was horrible because a lot of people were just stuck in a certain life that they didn't like. All of this change that's going on so fast and the changeability of things creates also opportunities to change your life very, very fast. Your life can change from 1 month to the next completely. And the tools are out there. You just need to embrace them. Good. All right. So I'm going to give it a minute, and then we're going to go into the Q&A, okay? I'm going to come back on camera in just a minute. All right. So now go into the Q&A. You can just unmute yourself if you have a question. In the meantime, let's talk about this. What factors would cause crypto value to decrease? Crypto value is, hold on. You talk about crypto value. We can't talk about crypto necessarily. It's more like we have to talk about the individual utilities mostly, of those coins. Utility, what can it be used for? In my opinion, Ethereum, like that's my personal opinion, but I think Ethereum should be more valuable or is more valuable and should be trading at a higher price than Bitcoin because it has more utility. All the layer 2 and 3 stuff that became accessible and possible through Ethereum. But crypto in general is definitely the future, but it can't be misused, and it will be misused for sure. Because if you pervert the idea and you use it as a ledger that you can you can follow every transaction of every person, that gives you an enormous amount of control, and you can issue it directly. You don't need this fiat system anymore. So you can definitely pervert it, and it will be perverted. But in the future, crypto is definitely the biggest thing. Besides that, you can't. I don't think you can really speak of crypto in these generalities. It's more like a different networks that have different benefits, different utilities. Bitcoin ledger is completely different from Ethereum, Solana, all these things, right? But what I'm saying is, if we talk about let's say Dogecoin or things like that, that is absolutely just hype. It's like a Ponzi scheme. It's essentially one idiot waiting for a person that's even dumber to sell it to them. That's basically that's the idea behind a Ponzi scheme. You see what I mean? There's no real value. It's just hype, and everybody's just trying to make a buck off the next person. That's basically how it works with most crypto coins. Ponzi scheme. Yeah.
You say we could just unmute ourselves and ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, let's say I don't get a CBDC, yet I would like to travel to a country that has CBDCs. Do I have to get one if I travel to another country or not?
Okay, just to make sure that I understand your question correctly. Let's say you live in a country that has not introduced CBDCs, but you want to travel to a country that has CBDCs. And okay,
Yeah,
well,
without getting one.
Yeah, well, they must have some sort of an exchange between those different countries. So, I mean that's hypothetical, but I would assume that you would have to get CBDCs. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
because my thing is that if I leave the UK and then I want to come back here and visit family and stuff, will I still have to get a CBDC?
Yeah, most likely that's hypothetical, but yes, most likely you would have to get one or get some CBDC to pay for stuff. Yeah, for sure.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
No problem. Another question here. Which country do you suggest for coming years to live? Germany or India or any other? Man, I've been born and raised here in Germany, and it really hurts me to say that, but Germany is fucked, dude. It's really bad. Look, look. Germany obviously has a very high living standard. It's a very wealthy country, and for the last 200 years, the living standards have been built up here. So yeah, Germany has one of the highest living standards in the world. That's true, but the economic future of Germany is just really, really bad. That's the problem with the industry that's been built for the last century or before that. Germany had its industrial revolution 140 years ago, and the industries that made Germany very, very strong are no longer needed. On top of that, the demographics are horrible. They try to compensate for that a little bit with immigration, but the problem is that a lot of immigrants here are not necessarily skilled enough to do the high tech jobs, so to speak. And on top of that, it wouldn't even be enough people. So the birth rates are very low. Costs are very high. Energy costs are too high. There's no cheap energy from Russia anymore. I believe that Europe in general and Germany specifically, because Germany is the or has been the economic center of Europe, has been through a complete assault by the US. The US has decided around a couple of years ago, right around 2008, 2009, they have decided that Europe is too much of a competitor, and they decided that they will destroy it. And that's what's been happening ever since 2009 and 2010. I mean, after the Second World War, Europe and Germany really served the purpose for the American-led order, where they were kind of like a filter, or like they were a protection against Russia and the Soviet Union and all that stuff, right? And they benefited from the trade, and America benefited from the allies over there. But ever since 2008, 2009, America decided that they had become too much of a competition, and ever since then they've been systematically destroying the economies here. And I mean, you could see Greece. Maybe you heard about that. I don't know if you guys follow that, but Greece, the stuff that happened with all of Southern Europe is completely fucked with they have no real economies to speak of. They're not powerful at all. And ever since let's say 2014, Germany has been sabotaged, and without Germany, there's no EU, there's no European Union. And on top, like I said, on top of the factors of bad demographics, an industry that doesn't work in the 21st century, and what was the other factor? Too high energy prices. Germany cannot compete, and they say that within 5 to 6 years, Germany is going to be a net. What's that? Like they're gonna take more money out of the EU than they're paying, which has been the opposite for the last couple of years, or last decades actually. And at that point, the European Union is going to fall apart. So the EU, including the euro, is not going to exist much longer. They're not going to be here 2030. So within 5 years, the EU is gonna implode, and everybody else also already has plans. There's an option for everybody. They say that the UK is going to join NAFTA, which is probably a good idea after Brexit. There's going to be a France-led EU, or like a it's not the EU, but it's kind of like an EU, where France is going to come together with Italy, Spain, and all those guys. The Netherlands are going to probably also join NAFTA, and the others don't really matter. And no one's going to want to work with Germany, because there's no benefit to it. Everybody liked Germany's money in the last couple of decades. Nobody liked Germans, but they like their money. But now, that factor is gone. Like, if you look at the economic data of Germany, it's really it's horrible. It really is horrible. And I'm not saying that with contempt or anything, but it's just it doesn't look good. So Germany, I would not recommend that anyone moves here. Really, if you wanna prosper economically in the future, Germany is not the place for that. Now, I understand that, relatively speaking, there are a lot of countries that are poorer or have lower living standards than Germany, relatively speaking, but that's going to change very, very fast. So, and I don't think Germany has any concept for the future. The German mentality is very, very slow changing. They're very, very slow at adapting new technologies and all that stuff. So I don't think Germany looks good. India, I don't know. I really don't know enough about India. So which country do you suggest coming in the coming years to live? It depends on what you want to do. It really depends on what you want to do, what your plans are. If you want to get rich, go to Asia. Let's say, if you want to get rich, go to Asia. Yeah.
So,
and when I say Asia, I'm not talking about China. I'm talking about more like should I say Singapore or something like that? Singapore, probably a good place.
so if I can say something, I hope I'm not taking much time.
Yeah.
So now currently I'm in Germany, but I'm Indian. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here like 2-3 years learning language.
Which city?
Sorry.
Which city?
I'm in Bayern,
What part
near
is that?
this Lindau Bodensee.
Oh, no way. Okay. Okay.
So Yeah, it has been a long time. I'm still not perfect in language, and I did my studies here and something is now I started working this year, but I'm still struggling. Like it's not 100% like with language and things. So I don't know if it's Germany or India, then
What sector do you work in?
I work in gastronomy.
Okay.
I did Ausbildung.
Okay.
That's the tough
Ausbildung.
part.
Wie viele? 3 Jahre oder wie lang? Wie lang?
2 Jahre.
2 Jahre. Okay.
Ja, ich habe das wenig gemacht. Jetzt gibt Möglichkeit und dann ich gesagt, jetzt ich bin endlich fertig mit etwas machen. Jetzt ich muss nicht mehr arbeiten und so. Und heute ich habe das gehört und dann ich
Okay.
was schon gesagt, okay, nochmal.
Ja, Gastronomie ist eine gute Frage. Also Gastronomie also hast du Rentenansprüche dann auch oder sowas? Was ist denn das? Eine Festanstellung oder was hast du vor? Hast du irgendwelche Pläne?
Äh, Verstehe nicht.
Hast du eine Festanstellung
Äh,
oder
ja,
befristet?
jetzt ich warte noch so ich habe dieses Studiumvisum gehabt, jetzt aber
Okay,
dann die Vertrag ist 2 Jahre. Ein Jahr, 2 Jahre Vertrag.
okay.
Und dann jetzt, ich warte noch für die Ausländerbehörde zu wechseln, die Visum.
Okay.
Aber ich habe schon in diesem Jahr Juli fertig gemacht, diese Ausbildung und dann äh, und ja, und dann ich habe einfach nochmal ein bisschen Weiterbildung, ein Kurs gemacht, aber war viel teuer.
Mhm.
Und
Und
ja,
wie heißt die Ausbildung? Wie heißt der Abschluss?
das heißt Fachkraft für Gastronomie. Und dann
Okay,
ich habe Schwerpunkt Restaurant gemacht. Und
okay.
jetzt gerade mache ich ein bisschen Bar. So ich habe einen kleinen Kurs, aber das Kurs ist auch in München ist viel teurer. Es war schon ein Monat mehr,
Mhm.
ein Monat Gehalt. Es war schon ein Barkurs, das ich aber
Ja.
gemacht, weil ich glaube, das war ein bisschen besser. Ja.
Ja. In München sind die Mieten auf jeden Fall sehr, sehr hoch. Und in den letzten Jahren ist hier, ich bin ja hier aufgewachsen in München, ne?
Mhm.
Und die, ich sind auch sehr, sehr viele Leute herzugezogen. Also München würde ich auch nicht empfehlen. Ja,
Nee,
nicht sehr gut. Aber
ich,
ja, aber das ist eine Frage, die kann ich jetzt so nicht beantworten, weil ich bräuchte mehr Informationen, weißt du? Und auch dein persönliches Horoskop. Your per or let's switch into English. I don't want to be rude here, but yeah, that's a question that I can't answer. Like if you want individual information or an individual projection, that is definitely possible. Like what we need is like basically if we look at your individual horoscope and all the
Mhm.
factors involved, I could definitely tell you more. But with this information, it was really hard for
Oh,
me to tell you. But generally speaking, I believe that the um, economic projections, depending on how long you want to stay here, but Germany is really not a good place in the future. It's going to be harder and harder and harder. People are already struggling. And you can see that. I'm sure you make ends meet, but you can see how tough it's becoming, and it's not going to get better and better. It's the opposite. Do you agree?
yeah, I think so.
Maybe Canada. Maybe go to Canada. That's hard, but I don't know.
Canada. I heard they
Uh,
give paper easily.
I heard they shut down their or they stopped. Or they made it much harder. Made it much harder to immigrate. At least, I mean, we have some Canadians here if they want to comment on that. But yeah,
But if we do individual consultation, how much it will cost? But because I see some of the prices and I said, nah.
yeah, I stopped doing consultations a while ago. I don't know. Like if you can hit me up, we can talk about like the extent that you want to do that, and we can come up with a price. But I really don't have a fixed rate anymore.
Okay, okay then I will write you.
Sure.
Okay.
It's gonna be at least 1 month rent. You know, pay up, ma. Pay up, ma. I'm just kidding. Just joking. Just joking. All right. Good. Any other questions? Oh, a lot of written questions here. Okay. Is there some spiritual practice that you would recommend to withstand the coming changes in the energies of the years to come? Is there something that will be more important in spiritual practice in the future that has not been as important in the past? You know, I'm the meditation guy. Meditation, but listen, meditation, concentration is the key. When you can concentrate, you can focus on something and create it. And that is the most important ability that's actually the only ability that you need, because everything flows from there. You can strengthen concentration by practicing meditation. So the number one spiritual practice is meditation. That's what you need. Meditation. Good. Will business owners be able to limit their exposure to technical? If you have assets, I believe that, yes. But the thing is that there's a deindustrialization planned, and it's already taken place. So you don't have much time, is what I'm trying to say. You don't have much time. The plan is centralization of power. You can centralize. Entrepreneurship is against that, because with entrepreneurs, you have people that are kind of like creating independence, and maybe that leads too far, but they're essentially taking their destiny in their own hands, and that's of course not wanted. So as a business owner, if you acquire assets, absolutely, that's definitely a good choice. But they're gonna make it harder and harder and harder. Good. If we have already acquired physical gold, silver, would it be helpful to hang on to it? Yeah, I believe that 2026, 2027, right around that. So in around 2 years from now, gold is going to be skyrocketing, because this is going to be kind of like a big crisis, if not the end of the financial system, right around 2026, 2027. This is where all the fiat currencies, including the dollar, are going to, most of them are not going to exist anymore afterwards. And if you can hold the gold until then, it's going to absolutely go very high, because that's the hedge against the fiat currencies, for sure.
So if access to the transfer of wealth for the masses goes against the status quo for the powers that be, would it be fair to say, say you were to put yourself in the shoes of the so-called elites, it would not be surprising if they found a way to minimize the ability for the masses to be involved in cryptocurrencies?
For sure, yeah. Yeah. But now, Bitcoin has become kind of like an institutional thing now. It's been embraced by institutional investors, which means it's like mass adoption. So if they can regulate it, they're definitely going to encourage it, because then they can tax you and then they can control it. But cryptocurrencies, as it was originally envisioned, is definitely not going to be encouraged. That's going to be prevented. So as long as they can have their control over it, it's going to be embraced and it's going to be accessible. And Bitcoin is already institutionalized. What does it tell you? Of course, they control it. And Bitcoin is very the ownership is very concentrated. So very, very few people own a lot of Bitcoin. Most people own very little. So they can move the prices, control it, and it's basically a pump and dump scheme. It's you know, just like they do it in the markets. when you look at markets, how they work, it's the big players, smart money, that's what they're called. They use liquidity, or they need liquidity. Where do they get liquidity from? They have a lot of small traders, that, let's say, learn trading patterns. Okay, every fucking course, every fucking book, every fucking teacher talks about trading chart patterns, right? So, oh, resistance level, support level. Okay, this is where I need to put my stop. So the smart money knows where the stops are, the stop losses. A stop loss triggers a sale automatically, which creates liquidity. So what they do is they front run, meaning they make orders that front run the action. And then they hit the stop losses. Now a lot of liquidity gets released, and then they push the price further up. So what they're doing is essentially the smart money uses the liquidity of small traders to finance themselves and to get richer, and to basically buy up the entire market, because they need that. Because you can only win if somebody else loses. Remember, the markets are a zero-sum game, so they need somebody else to lose for them to keep producing returns for their investors. When I say smart money, I'm talking about investment banks and hedge funds. And they have people that want a profit. You can only make a profit by creating returns, and you can only create returns if other people lose money against your bet. Okay, so every market works like that, every big market, and crypto works the same way right now. Of course, you know, smart money is manipulating the market, and they're launching influencers with certain predictions here and there, and they're launching campaigns, news outlets, and they all have their ways of manipulating people to go in a certain direction and buy and sell in a certain direction. So Bitcoin is completely controlled, of course, you know, and everything that has been institutionally embraced is also controlled, in my opinion. Everything else, yeah. So what the only thing that can really help you and save you is getting assets. You need assets. Assets is something that pays you cash flow, ideally passively. And on top of that, I don't really think this game can be won if you're not really involved in it, you know. So what does that mean, being involved in it? It just means that that has to be part of your daily life. You have to daily deal with finances, pick your asset class, whatever that may be, and get good at it. That's my opinion. And if you get good at it and make that part of your daily life, you will make a profit. Absolutely. And to a large extent, it's really understanding it, and then also using, you know, magical tools and so on and so forth. But the approach that most people have to this is kind of like, I don't really want to deal with it, but it's just something that I have to do. But with this attitude, you can't win. Any game that you want to win, you have to focus on. And if you focus on it, I guarantee you will win. Absolutely. So if you see money not as finances money not as something that you have to do, but it doesn't interest you at all, but it's something that you really like and you really embrace it and learn about it every day, you can't help but to attract that. Opportunities are going to show up, you know, and you can make money out of nowhere. Absolutely, you can make money out of nowhere, you know, because money is not a real thing. It's not really, it's really made up. It's more like contracts, opportunities, arbitrage, and leverage. That's what money is. But it's not something real. It's not something physical, is what I'm trying to say. So just because you don't have a lot of money doesn't mean that you can't make a lot of money. But you have to understand it. You have to learn about it. It's a frequency. I made a lot of videos about that. It's a certain frequency that you have to embrace on a daily basis, and then you can't help but to attract that, for sure. Yeah. So Pick your asset class and get good at it. My opinion.
Yes, sir. And correct me if I'm wrong. I remember in one of your lives you spoke about you broke down how real estate is basically obsolete or will become obsolete over these next few years or decades. Um, did you mention that commercial real estate would have some type of longevity compared to um, the other type of real estate that escapes my tongue? But yeah, did you say that or no?
Well, when we're talking about real estate, we really got to be careful because there is no real estate market. Every city has multiple real estate markets, so it really depends on where we are. And demographics obviously are the most important factor when it comes to real estate. If I said real estate is dead, it must have been in an area where the demographics are not good, and where the I mean, it's always in a certain context. How are you? What are you doing with the real estate? Commercial real estate is a different game than residential real estate, obviously, right? And then when we're talking about residential real estate, a lot of people are trying to build portfolios, for example, to like they want to build their retirement fund, if that makes sense. They want to secure their retirement by building up a real estate portfolio that pays them, the Robert Kiyosaki stuff, which is not a. I mean, it depends on where you do that. But when I was talking about that, I'm sure if I said real estate is dead, I'm sure it was in the context of a certain region with horrible demographics, which means that, okay, let's say I build up a real estate portfolio, but who's going to rent that in 10 years from now? Okay. Inflation is going to drive my costs up. Now, real estate is generally speaking good for inflation, right? But because the debt is cheaper. But if I have no tenants, this real estate portfolio is not going to do anything. So it's really contextual. You can make money in any asset class, absolutely, and I'm sure in the future you can still make money in real estate for sure. But you have to understand it. You have to understand your game. You have to understand your niche, and absolutely you can make money in real estate for sure. But if I said that, I'm sure it was in a context that I just mentioned. You can make money in anything if you understand it, for sure.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Hold on, I see a new question, but when I open the chat, I can't see anything else. Let's see. How do you know what asset class to pick? Good question, maybe. Good question to answer. I believe it's you need to have a fascination for it. You need to like it, I believe. If you like the asset class and then you're gonna like it. Maybe it's also based on your birth chart. I'm sure in your birth chart you can see what asset class works for you. Okay. All right. So I guess most questions have been answered. Hopefully that was something that you can work with. Mr. What was your name again? Mr. Majahan, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But if you're interested in an individual Rohit, okay. If you're interested in an individual it's called a consultation, then you can definitely reach out to me. Everybody else, of course, is welcome to do that as well. You know how to find me. Facebook, Twitter, Telegram. Follow me on X. Follow me on Telegram. I'm going to put the links under this video when it's uploaded on YouTube. And let's embrace this new time. All right. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.